how to reopen now.
So they're saying that, is there a fundamental right to work if the government can't get me the money when I need it? Is there a fundamental right
you want to
go
to work? Go take a job as an essential worker. Do it tomorrow. Right? You're working.
I am.
You're an essential worker.
Hey everybody, how's it going? So I wanted to show you all this tweet that someone on Discord linked me to recently. I don't actually use Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. I deleted my accounts on all these platforms before it was cool. But this is something that someone linked me to, and honestly, it's hard for me to not become aggravated or enraged when I listen to this particular politician speak. I think I've just kind of gotten over it. This shouldn't happen. It shouldn't become normalized that I stop becoming aggravated at this kind of crap. But it has, and maybe it shouldn't, but let's just go over it. This is from our Emmy award-winning Governor Andrew Cuomo. We simply cannot stay closed until the vaccine hits critical mass. The cost is too high. We will have nothing left to open. We must reopen the economy, but we must do it smartly and safely. Now, there's a couple of reasons that this is aggravating. You may think that this is a very sensible statement. You have not even the entire state, just New York City alone has a budget of over $70 billion. Somewhere around half of that budget is property taxes from buildings and homes, many of which are probably not going to be paying their property taxes because their tenants are not paying their rent because they're not legally allowed to open and do business. So there is going to be a large, gigantic fallout that someone is going to have to answer for. And in addition to this is just the destruction of all the businesses in the area, the economic destruction of all the people that live in the city, many of whom are living paycheck to paycheck as is. And there's a couple of reasons that this is aggravating. It's the 180-degree turn with regards to rhetoric once you actually have to start acknowledging reality. So what bothered me about this back in March and April is that anytime anybody had any questions whatsoever about the reality or what we're going to do a few weeks from now, a few months from now, or next year, he used a certain type of rhetoric. The part that bothered me the most was, if we save only one life, I'll be happy, that then it'll be worth it. And what bothered me about the rhetoric of if we save only one life, it's worth it, is that that's not how we calculate anything when we create public policy or in society. If that were the case, every single highway in the United States would have a speed limit of 15 miles an hour. You would save way more than just one life if you had a speed limit of 15 miles an hour on the highway. A lot of people that would be hit with the car may not even actually get hurt if they're only getting hit at 15 miles an hour versus 60 or 70 or 80. 2 people every year die from vending machine because they tried to get a snack out of it. You get rid of vending machines, you save 2 lives. And you may think I'm being ridiculous here, but again, I could go on and on and on with more and more examples. Rather than focus on the 2 that I gave, just think for yourself, how many lives could we save by limiting the activities that people partake in on a regular basis? There are lots of activities that cause death in the United States that we could argue and just say, well, it'll save one life if we stop that activity. We don't have a society where we take a problem like this and we come up with a solution to this problem at the expense of every other problem. It's silly to come up with a univariate solution to a multivariate problem. And this is what bothered me with that type of rhetoric. To use this type of rhetoric, I think, is immature, but to use it to actually posture as if you're morally superior to those who are acknowledging reality while you are ignoring reality is, to me, disgusting. Now, the person who used that rhetoric on every critic is now saying, we need to reopen the economy. If we don't, we're going to be screwed. As if this isn't something that people could have told him 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, 10, and it's particularly aggravating. Now, even if he was saying what he was saying, when cases were going down, then I could understand. He may be saying, listen, we can't wait for the vaccine. We've managed to defeat it. We've crushed the curve. So we are going to now declare victory over the virus, and we are going to reopen the economy. If he had said that, then even that would start to make sense. But if you actually take a look at the New York COVID cases, again, this is not coming from Fox, not coming from Breitbart, not coming from some random conspiracy site. This is what Google shows you from the New York Times. We have, at this point, pretty much a record number of cases in the city. So when all I do here is I just Google New York COVID cases. The source of this data is the New York Times, and you'll see that even back when we had the lockdowns, we were, up to a point of maybe 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 cases a day, and it kind of simmered down, and then November came in, and the holiday season came in, Thanksgiving, and then Christmas, and now we're up to as much as 19,000 cases a day. So we are at an all-time high in cases in New York City, and the person saying that we need to reopen the economy, we can't wait to reopen the economy, is the very same person that was just destroying people based on the idea that he cared more about human life than you did because he was willing to make the decision to destroy the economy when it was not actually something that would ever affect him, his family, his loved ones, his friends, personally, because they're financially covered. But you're not. But you don't matter. This is the part that drives me absolutely up a wall. And the thing that particularly drives me crazy even more is when you actually do the math. One of the things that I'll often get in my comments is, Lewis, you just want people to die. You don't care about people that are saving lives. Well, here's a basic little exercise that you could do for many different states across the United States. Easy thing to do. What you can do is you can take the population of the state. You can take the deaths. So what you do is you can take deaths. This is actually New York City, not New York State. So you could take deaths over here. You can divide that number by the population of the state, and then you multiply it by 100. And then you will get the percentage of people that died of COVID in that state. And one thing you may find if you do this is that the states that had some of the strictest lockdowns also had some of the higher percentages of people that actually died from the virus. I'm not going to get into that in this video. I'm not going to get into all the reasons. There are many people that have gone over this that are more knowledgeable on the topic that can explain to you some of the policy decisions that were made early on in 2020 that led to us having simultaneously one of the crappier death rates while simultaneously having a destroyed economy. See, New York, we get the worst of both worlds. There are some things that he said here, again, that are just absolutely insufferable. So, for instance, I tend to, on average, at least in contrast to people that I know in New York City, I don't know about the rest of the country, but in contrast to people in New York City, I tend to lean a little bit more conservative. And when someone says something, let's say someone is complaining about their job or the amount of money they make or how they're able to make a living, it can be considered heartless by liberals when a conservative-minded person says something along the lines of, you should look for a better job, or try and see if you can, take an internship on the side, or try and learn something, or go to night school, or do what you can to see if you can start a business, or just try to find another job. That's considered heartless because that person may not be able to find another job easy. They may have familial obligations that they have to attend to or cater to. They may not be capable of learning in higher education. They may be like me, where they can't even pass freshman chemistry without cheating. And they may not be able to find themselves a better job. So it's considered very offensive to tell someone if they are not getting paid enough, don't ask for a better minimum wage, don't ask for the employer to treat you better, don't lobby for employers to have to treat their workers better, it's on you to find a better job. So I find it particularly interesting when our Democratic governor says this in response to protesters that are really curious how they're supposed to feed their family, how they're going to pay their mortgage and their property tax and all that when they ask our dictator governor over here. So this is one of the ways that he reacted. And again, this is part of what drives people in New York City up a wall.
How to reopen now?
So they're saying that, is there a fundamental right to work if the government can't get me the money when I need it? Is there a fundamental right
you want
to
to go to
go
work? Go take a job as an essential worker. Do it tomorrow. Right? You're working.
I am.
You're an essential worker.
This fuckface is seriously telling you, oh, are you having a problem with getting a job? Why don't you become a reporter? Because there's tons of news stations that are hiring people right now for $60,000 to $120,000 a year in the middle of the pandemic to become a reporter. Are you one of the hundreds of thousands of millions of people that are currently newly unemployed in New York State thanks to this fuckface? Don't worry, you can get a job as a reporter. Oh my God, how is this man the fucking governor of the state? When this woman asked a very reasonable question, which is, if the government is going to say that I can't work, but I still need to pay my taxes, I still need to pay my mortgage, I still need to pay my rent, I still need to pay the person that fixes the heat in my house, what's going on there? He says, well, yeah, just take a job as an essential worker. So, well, here's the thing that I find incredibly offensive, weird. It's just when someone who's more conservative-minded says, look into getting a better job if you don't like the job you have now, that's offensive and how dare you material. But when the Democrat governor says, oh, did we just make your entire industry illegal overnight? Did we just destroy your entire career, your business, and your industry? Yeah, why don't you take a job as an essential worker? Why don't you retrain yourself in an entirely different fucking field by going to the school that is closed so that you can get another job? That's considered okay. I don't get it. I don't understand how he wins elections, and I probably never will. If you go back to any of the videos that I did back in 2017, 2018, my stance here was quite clear. I do not feel guilty for this one bit, because that's the thing that always shows up in my comment section is, Louis, if you move, don't take your voting habits with you. It's the politicians that I vote for, they don't win in New York, they don't win in Florida, they don't win in Mississippi, they don't win in Georgia, they don't win anywhere. They get 1.6% of the vote, if even that much, because they actually come up with policy proposals instead of pandering. It's aggravating, because it didn't take a genius to see this happening. And again, if you actually take a look at the effect of lockdowns and everything else, in addition to what I said about just the ratio of the population that is population to deaths, and you look at some of the states that do not have lockdowns, it's not like there was some revolutionary, life-saving gift in New York City as a result of Cuomo's policies. In fact, if you actually take a look at several of his own PSAs, it says here, New York's contact tracing shows 70% of new COVID-19 cases occur from households and small gatherings, which are people getting together, which again is something that you're not going to be able to easily ban. Again, it is easy for you to say your office building or your store is not allowed to be open. Saying you're not allowed to allow someone into your home, that's one of those things that you really got to start getting, again, Chinese Communist Party level of authoritarian in order to actually enforce, and that's just not something that people are going to accept in this part of honestly, in the United States of America. You let me know what you think in the comments down below. But yeah, reality is going to smack New York City in the face very soon, and it's going to be painful because this state, at least the city, shouldn't speak for the entire state, at least New York City, his economy has been based on a bubble. It has been based on a bubble for a very long time. And if you just looking at my real estate series from 2019, all of these buildings are paying property tax based on the fact that people are paying $20,000 to $30,000 to $50,000 a month for a tiny shithole. And the only way for that to make any sense is to have all of the economic activity and the bubble that you had. We're not going back there because that was not sustainable. That should have never existed in the first place. It made no sense. New York City based its budget on the idea that that was something that is going to continue for a very long time. That's why New York City has a budget of over $70 billion. And we're not going back to that ever again. So even if there is some sort of stimulus or bailout package that the incoming Democratic administration proposes for New York, that's really just going to be once. That's not going to be something that keeps coming every single year. We're not going back to that. So New York is going to have a reckoning to face, which is what services do we cut? What things in our budget do we cut? And how is that going to negatively affect the people that are here? Because there is actually a price to destroying the economy. I don't even see how a billionaire's tax actually gets you out of this, because when you see the amount of billionaires that reside primarily in New York City, even if you take all their wealth, even if you just have like 100% billionaires tax, and you assume that billionaires cannot leave. So let's just make the assumption that they can't go, 130 miles down to Delaware. They can't go up to New Hampshire. They can't go to Pennsylvania. They can't drive down to North Carolina and buy a mansion there. Let's just assume that they're literally stuck here. Even if you extract all of their money, I don't see how you get to the $70 billion a year figure that just New York City had as its budget, because this is really going to come due when property tax collection time comes around. Because my CPA has told me that many of his clients are telling him, I'm just not paying property tax this year. None of my tenants have given me rent. A lot of them have just said, yeah, I know we have a 15 or 7 or 10 year lease with you. Here are the keys. I'll see you in court. Listen, we're not staying here. Most of those people are not actually coming back and paying their rent. So the building owners are not paying their property tax. that pays for a good 40 to 50% of the city's revenue. Once that actually hits, a lot of these politicians that were using this type of rhetoric to pander to their base, to inspire a certain emotion amongst you, are actually going to be hit with the fact that we do live in reality, and in reality there are trade-offs to everything, and that's going to be when the shit hits the fan, and that's when you're going to see a lot more people start to do a 180 on their rhetoric and start actually acknowledging reality. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Honestly, I'm not really expressing it in this video very well. I think I've become a little bit dead in terms of being able to express my anger at my local politicians on the outside, but it is here on the inside. Like in my heart, you can't see it on my face. I'm not really like able to emote it, but I'm angry on the inside. Angry on the inside.